Good afternoon, folks. This is Chuck with 83 Metalcraft. Today I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about how to MIG weld. There are several techniques you can use, whether you're running a flat weld on a piece of regular plate or a fillet weld. If you want to run stringers, weaves, you can apply all of these to the different positions, different styles. And so today, what I would like to focus on is I would like to show you how to run a fillet stringer in the flat position and also a weave in the fillet position. Alright, let's go. Alright folks, so the material that we're going to use today for our fillet connection is I actually cut up some flat bar. It's mild steel. We're going to be using 11 gauge flat bar today. I've cut them in coupons about 8 inches long, and so first thing we need to do is we need to get them tacked together to create the fillet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that right now. You want to make sure you get a good weld, because this will be the only thing really holding everything together until you begin welding. Now, when you're tacking a piece together, you need to stay near the ends, or on the ends if at all possible. And the reason for that is because when you go to start your weld, you're going to be starting at one of the ends and ending at the other. And the crucial part with that is if this is an actual formal weld at any point, you got to have a clean start and stop. And so I got them right on the end. And so when I start to do my actual weld, I will go ahead and I will puddle everything up and mix it in. So let's go ahead and let's get our first weld. We're going to go ahead and work with what I call my skip weld, and that is going to be the stringer weld for today. Alright folks, so the first weld I'm fixing to show you is going to be a stringer weld or my skip weld. So we've got the piece tacked, and so now I'm going to be starting over on this end. And then we're going to just follow it all the way to the other end of the coupon. Alright, here we go. Alright folks, so now that I'm done running this stringer, what I want to do is I want to be able to show you, I've got a scribe, so we're going to zoom in here in just a second, and I want to be able to show you what I was doing technique wise. That way at home you can apply this to yourself. So the cameraman's going to zoom in, and so the first thing you're going to see is the pattern of my weld. Okay, and so if you see the pattern of this weld, they're laid really nicely, and it's almost like snake skin. Now what I was doing there is I began over in this corner, and I stayed just a second like I talked about in the intro, and I covered up that tack weld. And then what I did from there, once it heated up and once I was able to build up the puddle, all I did was move forward 1/8 of an inch. And so what I'm using is between the 1/8 inch that I'm moving forward, I'm also using a count. And this makes it very easy for new people learning. And so what I'm doing is once I heat up, I'm moving forward 1/8 of an inch, and then I'm using a 2,000 count. So heat up, and then you come forward 1/8 of an inch, 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000. Now the other thing that's really important is that you need to be able to have your hands in a very steady area, but also keep your knuckles out of the way. You need to be comfortable so that you can control the stinger. But the other part of that is that you need to be able to have your knuckles out of the way. Because if you don't have your knuckles out of the way, you're going to burn your knuckles, at which point you're going to become uncomfortable and you're going to compromise your weld. And you will physically be able to see the weld not look good. So what we're going to do, I'm going to run 2 more passes. So we're going to do this as a fillet connection. I'm going to do 3 runs. So we ran the first one, and so now the second one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 50% on top of this stringer that I've got here. Okay? The other 50% will be on the wall of the coupon that is vertical. And then my third run, I'm going to do the same thing, but on the bottom. I will be 50% on the first run, and I will be 50% on the bottom coupon that we welded to. Alright folks, so we're getting ready to start our second pass. And we're going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to start right here, let my heat build up really quick with the puddle, and then I'm going to start moving. Alright, let's go. Alright folks, so we made our second pass on top of our fillet weld here. We made our root pass, and then we made our upper pass. And so now the cameraman is going to go ahead and zoom in, and we're going to show you what we actually did here so that you can visually see what this looks like. Now this is very important because you're going to use this in everyday applications, whether you're welding in a weld shop or if you're trying to do a weld test. Okay, this is very important to be able to get your stringers on top of each other because it creates stability in the welding. Not only stability, but the strength. So what we did is if you look down here, you can see 50% of the original stringer. Okay, now on the top, we did the same thing. We started. Now, when you're starting, if you're looking at the top of the weld from the first pass, it'll have like a corner. So you always keep your wire right there. and then you just figure out your 2 count speed with that 1/8 inch of moving that I was explaining, and the gravity will naturally pull half of the puddle down, and it will naturally push half of the puddle up. And so we use the same 2 second count and the 1/8 inch skip along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make one more pass, and we're going to be making that pass here on the bottom, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to tie in 50% on the original stringer and 50% on the coupon. All right, let's go. All right, folks, so we're getting ready to run our third pass, and like I spoke about a minute ago, we're going to start down here on the bottom, right in the center where this crease is from the first pass. That's where we want our wire to remain. And so it should naturally push half the puddle up and bring half the puddle down. All right, let's go. Alright folks, so now we're done with the stringers, and I just wanted to give you guys a cleaned up shot of what we're looking at here. Now remember, our original root pass is right in the center under these. Okay, so then our second pass was on top, and our third pass, our final, was on the bottom. Now if ran correctly, there will be no undercut or back gouging anywhere. Now remember, you got to be really steady in your hands and use the count correctly, otherwise you can create undercut. But also at the same time, if you're too slow in your hand movement and your count, then you're going to create the weld that's going to belly out in what we call cold roll. And so we don't want to do that either, because that's also a rejectable weld. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do a weave also in a flat position. Alright, let's go. Alright folks, so now that I've shown you the first technique, my skip technique on a fillet weld, the next thing I want to show you, like I said a few minutes ago, is I'm going to show you how to do a weave. And this weave is very simple. We use the same 1/8 inch forward movement and the 2 second count. This is pretty important in my opinion for beginners. Some of the biggest problems that beginners have is depth perception, being able to maintain a balance with the hood down, but not only that, but your hand staying steady. Your wire needs to remain about 1/4 of an inch out beyond the nozzle, and the problem that happens is a welder either becomes very rigid and doesn't want to move, or they're too loose and basically they start pushing the gun in and out, and we don't want to have either. We want to be very comfortable. So one of the things that I do is I set my hand up like this. I'm right-handed. So I kind of use my left hand as a prop, but also a shield. And it makes it real easy. I put my gun right there, kind of in the crook of where my knuckle is. This allows me adjustability, but also it allows me to roll as I'm welding. And I roll on the ball of my hand. And so I can do the entire weld in one run. And so you've got to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, then that's a problem, because you're going to want to stop. So it's either going to mess you up, or you're going to want to stop short and you may only get an inch or two, which happens frequently with new welders. And the risk that you run there is every time you have to stop and start, you have to tie a weld in. And if you don't properly tie your weld in, then you're going to have a weak weld. You're going to have a weak connection that can either break, or if you're doing, a weld test, or if it's being inspected out in the field or in the shop, they're going to end up failing. It creates a weak point. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and do the weave. All right, let's go. All right, folks, so now we're going to begin this weave weld. Now we're going to begin the same way. We want to be here in the corner, and we're going to let our puddle heat up once again. All right, let's go. All right, folks, so now that we're done doing the weave, I just wanted to give you kind of a close-up shot of what this looks like and what the technique is. So basically, take my scribe here as the electrode. And so I always start in the crease of where the two coupons start in the 90-degree angle. And then I let it build up. And then from there, what I do is I actually come up the coupon 1/8 of an inch for about a second, and then I come back down. Now from there, I move forward 1/8 of an inch, and then I just go straight back up. And at that point, I'm just doing L's. I'm literally not doing circles, moons, anything fancy like that. I'm just simply doing L's. But I'm using the same 2-second count And also, I'm moving forward 1/8 of an inch. Once again, this is very important, and in my opinion, probably one of the most important things for somebody who's learning, just because it gives you a little more added stability. You don't have to do anything fancy. You're not moving, you're not circling, you're not doing any of that stuff. It's simply an L. You're doing a backwards L if you're right-handed. You're going to go right to left, and you're going to do the opposite here. You're going to do a regular L if you're going left to right. And it's really that easy. All right, guys. That's all for today, and we'll see you in a minute. All right, folks. So now that I showed you the technique after the weld, after cleaning it up, it is easy. It can be made very easy. I know that a lot of people, when they're getting into it, it can be very intimidating. But I've tried to basically dumb this down as far as I can to help, people who may not have a welder friend or somebody in their family that does this that can pass it along. I know a lot of people, they come onto these different sites and looking for how to do this, and some of these guys, that are teaching this get very, very fancy, which fancy welding can always come down the road. And it's a good thing to always practice and expand, your knowledge down the road. But I know from personal experience, when I was first learning and I tried to get real fancy, I struggled big time. And then once I was able to dumb it down, I couldn't even do a circle without keeping my balance and driving the gun into the steel. I can't remember how many tips I went through, and the diffusers, because I just drove the gun into the puddle because I was trying to just do these little circles that everybody was trying to teach me. I basically dumbed it down and did an L, and at that point I was able to figure it out. And so that's going to be it for today. And if you guys have questions or comments, please comment below. I will answer every comment, every question. I will try to give advice anywhere I can. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, you can always expand your knowledge. We're going to be having some more videos coming out here pretty soon, about one a week. We're going to actually be getting into doing in-process projects here in my shop. For those of you just joining us, I am a rail and a gate builder, and so we do a ton of different styles of gates and ornamental railings for new builds, for renovations, etc. And I'm going to teach you from start to finish how to build these rails. But until next time, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.